I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell what everything's for. And I wish I meant that personally. I wish I meant it in such a way that this was something like a confession to a therapist. Like, yeah, I can't really feel the meaning in life anymore. No, that's not what I mean. Though sometimes I feel that way, but then it goes away as soon as it comes. So that's not my point. No, I think if I was at my most manic, highfalutin, and overblown, I would say as a civilization, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. And that's not new. People have been saying this for over 100 years now. I mean, when Marx complains about these sort of automatic looms in the Lowell factory system that are sort of supervening all of the workers and subtending them and almost puppeteering them, I mean, the result is what he calls an automatic fetish, an automatic sort of fallenness into an idol. And so we have fallen, at least since the factory system, into this weird kind of idolatry where we're not really thinking, something else is doing our thinking for us, and like the iconoclasts of the Byzantine Empire, we have to destroy the false idols and return to the true God. Say Nietzsche tried to do, or as Muhammad tried to do at Mecca. That's just Marx. Now, the flaneur strolling down London or Paris or New York in the turn of the 1900s is written about by Charles Baudelaire and to a lesser extent by T.S. Eliot. He just would, give the fuck up. He'd say, oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I want to have a fucking smoke, some coffee, and some really fucking nice caviar, and ain't nobody gonna fucking stop me. That also wasn't a great solution, in part because, as T.S. Eliot says, we get the cruelest of months in April. We get the horrible flowers that used to crown us, the fleurs du mal, as Baudelaire would say. And we instead get this muck of rancid shit water and shitty fucking streets and homeless people and everything in this unreal city that makes up the mass anonymity. That's the condition we're in. That's how Georg Simmel will put it in his conception of the stranger and the triad. So over 100 years, we've got people saying, at least, that in our modern scientific rationality, we've got forces controlling us, we know not what, right? Capital is this vampiric force that's sucking our fucking life energy, and who the fuck knows where it's putting it. Mr. Moneybags is, I don't know, getting a dick size surgery or something? I don't know, but it's going there. And then, for at least, again, 100 years, we've got people saying, yeah, we don't even fucking know each other anymore. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker who would haggle a little bit for, their bread, their wine, their sugar, their spice, all gone now. We're all just anonymous fucking cows bumping into each other. We're a big fucking herd in the city. The town is where the intimate is, and so you get this sort of retreat to the town in Heidegger, and also in you-know-who patronized Heidegger. We get a bunch of bullshit. We get a bunch of fucking bullshit. Meanwhile, the nuclear fucking bomb's blown up people from here to Timbuktu. And guess what? We can buy a bunch of new spin-off commodities made by NASA and Lockheed Martin, like the semiconductor and the fucking microwave. Meanwhile, we still don't know what the fuck we're doing, but at least we can do a fucking barbecue, and at least we've got the Japs under our thumb, right? If this makes no sense to you, forgive me. What I mean to say is, for at least the past 100 years, American and to a lesser extent Western European society, not Eastern European society because they were never really part of the West. If you talk to even Augustine, he'll say this. But anyway, it has been dominated by an ideology that is utterly fucking incoherent. It makes no fucking sense. And I would venture to bet that if the Soviet Union did not become successful in the mid-20th century, if Stalin's 5-year plans had not worked out, and if the Cultural Revolution and Great Leap Forward had not ultimately accreted into what is today one of the most advanced, ostensibly non-capitalist economies in the world, this ideology would still hold fast today. It reached its apogee just before World War II in the World's Fair at Chicago. Here, people, also inspired by the Green City movement, really believed that human technicity was going to lead us into something grand, right? These spirits that were hovering over us, as Marx had diagnosed, this anonymity that's leading us to all fucking hate each other, in this sort of mass psychological way, as Gustave Le Bon puts it, as well as Sigmund Freud puts it in his work on group psychology and the analysis of the ego, right? Technical objects could free us. What Thorstein Veblen had called the machine process wasn't just this, haunted thing that's, fucking sits over us like spooks, as Max Stirner would say. No, we could get what Lewis Mumford had called in the late 1920s a sort of basic communism. This is 40 years before Richard Nixon is interested in proposing a UBI. Already by the 1920s, Americans, red-blooded, full-throated Americans, like Lewis Mumford and also the educational theorist John Dewey, believed in a sort of American socialism or American communism. They're not talked about now, but of course, Mumford's book has been cited 10,000 times. You can look it up. It's called Technics and Civilization. And John Dewey's works, Liberalism and Social Action, as well as his theory of valuation in particular, preemptively respond to the sort of neoliberal crisis that supplements American technical ideology through the mid-century. He says, that is, John Dewey says, that what it is for there to be a healthy public life at all is for us to have a kind of basic security so that we can actually, participate in the fucking institutions that we ostensibly stand for, rather than being shoved up the ass with a bunch of fucking bullshit like rent costing half our fucking paycheck. Yeah, believe it or not, when rent costs half your paycheck, democracy ain't gonna fucking work. And you didn't need a sort of Marxist spectral argument to make this claim. You could, and Dewey did, make it on the grounds of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But nobody cares. Nobody cares, because in the grand scheme of things, the Red Scare takes over, Hayek wins out, and by the 1980s, this conception of the government solving our problems is repudiated by none other than Ronald Reagan himself. And he affirms that government is not the solution. It is the problem. And Thatcher, of course, says the same. There is no alternative. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're going to get a fucking job, and you're going to fucking like it. And that's where we are today. It really was the belief of many an academic, many a businessman, many a citizen, that by the 1920s, technicity could resolve human problems. I mean, Robert Owen already believed this in the 1830s when he founded, I believe it was New Harmony. Charles Fourier founded this in his conception of the phalanstery. It was believed that with the right technical know-how, the machine process would facilitate for us an overcoming of the price system, and that national economy would instead accrete into a global economy, thoroughly understood. That's to say, we would have what Hamilton called the American system of manufacturing, in which, as we did through the 1950s with NASA and Lockheed spin-offs, government would subsidize the formation of technological advancement to increase the total productive capacity of labor in a given domesticity, and would subsequently allow for everyone, the world over, to have all boats lifted in the universally rising tide. Of course, we don't get that. We instead get anti-colonial movements, which were necessary, but of course the latter is pulled away, as the economist Ha-Joon Chang has said, and capital that was supposed to flow through the free trade network, free trade. Yeah, it all comes back to us, actually. Eat shit, we got a stronger military. That's what we essentially said to the world for the past 20 years, past 30 years. Now, how we don't just essentially say it, we actually say it. And who's going to stop us? That's what I feel like saying whenever I see somebody like Trump say such things on the TV. Who's going to stop us? Clearly no one. And this is always the game that it seems the American state is now playing. But suffice it to say, all of this is monumentally incoherent. We don't know what we're doing as a civilization. We don't know what we're doing as a society, again, here in America or in the far west of Western Europe. All such movements towards nationalism have been essentially shams and frauds. They amounted to nothing. They come to nothing because they are nothing. Because at the end of the day, we have known for at least 200-300 years now that the conception of a universal humanity completely trumps any conception of national, particular racial consciousness. It didn't take Marx to say that we were going to get a global world. Fucking More, Thomas More knew this when he wrote his Utopia, as did Bacon when he wrote The New Atlantis, fucking 300 years before Marx was even in the fucking womb. We knew that global civilization was coming. Well before global slavery, well before racism as we knew it today. The thinkers of this world understood that we lived in a unified cosmos. Cicero understood that Rome had borders. Yeah, we like to think of Rome as this sort of proto-fascist state. No. No, they didn't want the whole fucking world. They knew that wasn't possible. At least Cicero didn't. Of course, he's killed, so I don't know if he's really indicative of the whole state. But suffice it to say, they knew, the Stoics at least, and Cicero as an eclectic knew, that our civilizational destiny is to be in the world, is to be in a well-ordered cosmos by making good, just laws for each other that allow each of us to thrive as human beings. Now, of course, this accepted women and the slaves, obviously, at that time, but, I like the idea, and I think it can be recuperated in some way. This conception of civilizational destiny, international human destiny, this was not foreign to the Americans either. Thomas Paine, in his Common Sense, was well aware that the American people seemed at the time to represent to the whole world what we now call a shot heard round. Why? Because the principles of liberty, so Americans still like to say, were for the first time tried as a great experiment that, taken together, constituted the lifeblood of the Union. Until it didn't, and people tried to resist, but we say that they were just, aberrant heretics or something, and that Webster and Lincoln won out. But whatever the fuck. There was an idea at the beginning of this country that lasted in and through the Trail of Tears, and with the, killing of, millions of Native Americans, that America had a national destiny. We as a people had a destiny, a manifest destiny. The belief subsequent to this, with Adam Smith, and in a manner of speaking with Marx, who wrote to Lincoln in the 1860s, was that the American subject, both as person and as national civic consciousness, would expand to the whole world. This was the idea of the melting pot. This was the idea, for better or worse, because it often was worse. This was the idea with the CIA preventing the sort of domino effect that they thought communism would have throughout the world. No, we need to be the domino effect. We need to expand global capital because that's the true freedom. That is America's destiny. Nobody fucking buys that shit anymore. And it's not even clear to me that the most oppressed classes in this country ever bought it. Frederick Douglass never bought this shit. You fucking kidding me? He was enslaved and beaten, and he was supposed to believe in the civic destiny of America to enslave more brown people? Get the fuck out of here. No. So this was already kind of a sham to begin with. Everybody knows that now. But at least for a certain period of time, again, through the 1920s, it was really believed that we were going to overcome that and make the world a better fucking place. We really believed that a basic socialism was possible. And then we didn't. And now we don't anymore. And anybody who proposes it and thinks about it is, I don't know, just a fucking dreamer or something. Or they're this sort of eminently actionist, practical person who's fucking putting their teeth to the grindstone, breaking their back, cracking their fingers, hoping to organize some fucking dunce in the middle of West Virginia. I say as my father, works for a union, so I'm allowed to say that. To do what? To get them less health care, since that's what they keep fucking voting for? Nonsense. Or you get what I think is more relevant and more useful, someone organizing along racial and gendered lines for some, piecemeal gain of the expansion of this bullshit system to their little piece of the pie. For what? Oh, just so you can get some more fucking blood money? Yeah, I get it. When you're fucking starving, blood money's nice. Sure, but it's still fucking blood money. And yeah, I can say that from within my apartment. This is true. This is correct. But I still believe in something more, and I sure as shit hope that whoever hears this does as well. Even if it is not the most remarkably coherent or intelligible, but I do think the main thesis has come through, which is that we don't know what we're doing. People all around us are just struggling to survive. And if they're not, they're either working like a horse, forgetting themselves in their labor, fallen into this mass horde populace that we've been plagued with for the past, 100 years. Or they're organizing people to get some other piece of the pie, doing essentially the same thing, forgetting themselves in some bullshit micro-level quest to get rents lower in one neighborhood of one city by about $100. And then they'll put that on a poster and call that one of our wins. Yeah, yeah, sure. One of your wins, well, Jeff Bezos makes another fucking $1 billion. Are you fucking serious? Come on. It's just so fucking comical. And if you point it out, these people will say that you're just a cynic. No. No, it is not cynical to suggest that wasting your life helping get rent down for 50 people for about $100 is in any way significant. Except in the same way that fucking Dorothy Day or Mother Teresa, for all her foibles, and slavery, giving some fucking bread to the poor is significant. It's like, yeah, sure, give bread to the poor, that's great, that's wonderful. But then you really just essentially claim that the poor will always be with us, which Christ had already said. So your charity, or your organizing, just went fucking nowhere anyway. I do believe that the recovery of an international destiny, the whole of mankind, does not need to be some religious zealotry or some bullshit bigoted project of national or sectarian ideology. We are all human beings. We are all persons. We are all predicates of a singular human subject. If we were not, we could not interact with each other. Whenever I think on these facts, I am so inspired, enlivened, and freed from everything else in this world, because I can remember and imagine that I am one among many. I am part of something beyond myself just in virtue of my being alive. And I want to extend this idea to everyone so we can all feel at the same time the beauty of what it is to be alive, the joy of what it is to make art, to craft, to produce and see ourselves reflected into the world, rather than just fighting for what? For what, a fucking diamond ring? Oh my God, fucking choke me and rape me in the ass. There is more to life than that, and I think we all know it. The only question is, what do we do about it? I don't know.